Yes, Saurav, we are live now.
So hi Rohit, how you been?
Hello, Saurav.
It's been 5 days since we last spoke about
Yes,
viruses and vaccines.
yes, that was a beautiful topic, viruses and vaccines. And
We're very contemporary too, and a catastrophe we're all still facing and would still face in the near future as well.
yeah, and for today's topic, we have come up with
Another
something that
contemporary
is
issue. Yes,
yes, something that is being talked in the news a lot, and it does affect India on a whole in many aspects. So we just
yeah,
thought of covering this topic as well.
right, right,
So.
right.
As we can see the screen, today's topic is going to be on JEE and NEET examinations 2020. And
Hmm.
so me and
Just for
Saurabh,
those who do not know what JEE and NEET is, so JEE is Joint Entrance Examination. It's a common entrance exam for all the engineering as aspirants, and similarly, NEET is a entrance exam for all the medical aspirants. Yeah,
right. Just a minute, Saurabh. Let me just change so that our viewers can also see what we are presenting.
right.
It might just take a couple of minutes.
Right. So for all those who are watching, the JEE exam has been conducted in all its shifts, and well, there are different reactions that we are going to talk about majorly, and NEET is going to be held in the coming week as well. So we would broadly cover the different implications of. I mean, if the examination was not held, if it was declared a zero academic year, how would it affect? And the timeline too, which is uh, majorly criticized because of
Yes.
inconvenience basically. I mean, yeah, the transportation has been affected, and mm, the safety measures, they are just seeming to be theoretical than practical. So
Yes.
these are the major concerns which we will be talking about.
Yes.
Yeah,
So now that we have started a trend to make some PPT for our viewers as well, so we have
right,
made one for this topic as well.
right.
So as we can see, we're going to talk about JEE and NEET examinations that are going to be held in 2020. Actually, JEE has already been conducted from September 1 to September 6. So we'll talk a brief on that and mainly on our NEET that is going to happen on 13th of September. So yeah, and as you can see in our PPT, so here is our channel topic ek soch anek. So
Together we express. Yes,
yes, together we discuss and express. So if you like our work, do like and subscribe to our channel. And
and also do let us know in the comment section that what should be the improvements and what else content do you need us to be talking about.
yes, definitely. Moving on to the next slide.
So the story so far, yeah, Rohit, so why don't you just brief us about this?
Yeah, so situation in India before exams, it has been a rough. We all agree that it has been a rough uh, 5 6 months
Years so
in
far,
India.
right? Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
you can
certainly.
see quite worse. So if we just notice the first point that we have mentioned here, so many states floods had come in so many states: Assam, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Uttar Pradesh, Kerala, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, and whatnot. So this year
Not to
has
forget
been
the cyclones as well, the Nisarga and Amphan
yes,
in the West Bengal, of course, and uh, Nisarga hitting the west coast of India, majorly in Raigad.
yes.
Yes,
So so this situation in the past 6 months has not only been COVID, but all the natural disasters that are happening in the country. and that too all over. It's not specific to one or two states. It almost like half our country has been dealing with floods on and off in different months, and this is a topic of concern, a separate issue of concern. And apart from this, the situation in India because of COVID-19 has been very tense. Lockdown was being implemented for so many months. We have eased lockdown in many places, and easing of lockdown has resulted in somewhat a spike. If you see the map in the slide that is shown, that is a map.
Hotspots being formed each day.
Yeah, so those are active cases, and if you see, many of the hotspots are our metropolitan cities and the area near to those, and almost we see that entire India region is covered with so many active cases all around. So the situation in India has been COVID and has been floods. Before we discussed on examinations, and talking about examinations, we know that because of lockdown, the public transportation is not available. That is a point that you covered.
We being Mumbaikas, who better to talk about this than anyone? I mean, we rely so much on the transportation, especially the railways.
Definitely.
Yes.
Mumbai locals has a separate fan base, you can say, because if the locals don't work, we also don't feel to go to office, because it's like a heart of the Mumbai city where it's connecting all the parts of Mumbai.
Well, so statistically, 2 crore is the population of Mumbai, and nearly a third of it, we could say 70 lakhs, nearly 70 to 75 lakhs are the local travelers of local trains. So you can imagine how much we are dependent on the Indian Railways, and with it being shut, so we can imagine the repercussions, and especially on the days like the days wherein on which the examinations are held.
Yes, definitely. So the situation of India has been a little tensed during the exams, and let's see what we have next.
So here comes the important questions. Were examinations necessary? So Rohit, I would like to know your opinion on this. I mean, what is your take on the examination? Were it necessary? I mean, and if it were declared a zero academic year, so what would be the repercussion? Just whatever you think about it. Why don't you tell us that?
Yeah, actually, I've jotted down everything that I want to do for this question, and as we can see in the slide, so it's a very I don't know. It's kind of very hypocritical when the judiciary and the parliament, they are operating virtually, and they are doing their sessions online, wherein they are putting the students of our country in such a situation wherein they have to go and physically go to locations and give those examinations. So I find it a little hypocrite of the government. Like, at least the exams could have been postponed up till the judiciary started having physical sessions, and the parliament as well. So I think that examinations could have been postponed for a couple of months more. Apart from this, students have asked personally so many times to various departments, and PILs and other appeals were also given to the Supreme Court. But sadly, it just took 3 minutes for the Supreme Court to just reject completely what the students' voices were, at least the ones who had put up the PIL. So it is a little disheartening, wherein you don't see the court to at least acknowledge or talk on this for a longer time. I think it at least deserved more than 3 minutes. And even before the national examinations, Saurabh, so various other examinations have been conducted throughout India. Two key examinations that happened quite recently were KCET, which is the Karnataka CET, and the Gujarat CET. So if you would have followed the news, Saurabh, so we know that these exams were not conducted up to the mark. the SOP, which is actually known as the standard operating procedure, those are guidelines given to various centers that how they should operate the examinations. So I won't say that all centers were inadequate, but many of the centers saw crowding of the people all around, of parents, and children getting jammed in
There is
rooms.
so much tension and anxiety which we personally have experienced. So I think this is something that was inevitable and something that could be envisioned beforehand.
Yes.
I mean, the regulatories, they who better than them would know about this. So I think this should have been considered before. SOPs here are pretty theoretical than practical, I would say.
Right. Yeah, you're right. I think the word that you took is the right one. The body should have envisioned like what is going to come up and how they are going to deal with it practically. So those things were missing during these examinations, and these examinations were happened with children of for around 2 lakhs. So it was not a national examination. So when just 2 lakh of the people are going for the examination, there we are finding such an issue. So
So on a national level, there would be even more, nearly
yeah,
1.5 million for NEET, and
yes,
nearly 8 lakhs nearly 9 lakhs for JEE.
yes,
So I think that's quite a big number, and I mean even more stark measures should have been taken. I mean, we will see what actually happened while JEE took place in this week.
yes, yes,
Yes,
yes, yes. So the photos that I have presented in the PPT, one is of the center during KCET, and the other one is also of a KCET center where a COVID positive patient is giving the exams a little separately from the others, and that is a question different altogether. If some students are found with COVID-19, should they be allowed to be in the same facility as the other students while giving examinations, or they could do some special provisions for them to give the examinations later when they were fine. So that's a different question altogether as well. So yeah, so in all, I think that were examinations necessary? Maybe not. Maybe it could have been postponed a couple of months, because we know, Saurabh, that every day there is a new peak that is coming in India. So
benchmark
now,
in itself, right?
yeah, so it is
Statistically, we
97,000
have
a day.
yes, we have surpassed Brazil in the number of
Yeah,
cases, and we are second to just United States of America. So yeah, that's no good story to tell.
yeah, and the rate with which we are going on, we are
It's
going to
beyond any country ever. Yeah,
USA as well. Yeah, in
I
some time.
think that is something to do with the densely populated states, and I think well, we could talk about it later, and then I think
Yes.
a little slight off topic.
Yes, yes. Moving on to the next slide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, here is what I think about the exam being conducted. Is it imperative? Well, so however controversial, inconvenient, and preponing the timeline of the examination is, I feel it is undoubtedly imperative that the exam be held. Okay, I mean the timeline is questionable, and the timeline they have set already. It is controversial. It is inconvenient. It is. I mean, it could have been postponed, but then whether or not to conduct the examination, that stands. I mean, I'm firm on that part. I mean, that should be conducted no matter what.
Yes.
So also another the reason behind this emphasis is, I mean, it would disturb the entire supply and demand. So which is already actually attacked from unforeseen sectors and chains. We can see, as we can see, the GDP being dropped to minus 24 percentage, something we haven't experienced in the past. In fact, yeah, 60 years or so, 50 years or so. So, so about that, and also the unfillable void it would create. I mean, it would be a zero academic year. Imagine the irreversibility of this issue. You cannot just reverse it, right? I mean, you cannot amend this. So I think no matter what exam has to be held. It is paramount that the exam be held. And also, another thing I would say is, like, for example, 1.5 million NEET aspirants plus another fresh batch nearly of the same magnitude. If they were to give the exam, I mean, if it is an zero academic year and they were to give the exam a year after this, so you can imagine the demand that would be created, a surplus demand. But then you only have that many seats for a particular college, so you can imagine the unpracticalness of this situation. It is simply not pragmatic. So I think, yeah, the exam should be held, and but again, the timeline, that is questionable, and I think it is pretty controversial on my part.
Yes, yes. I think it is difficult for any body who is deciding onto these examinations. So these examinations have already been postponed from May. We planned it on July, we planned it on August, and then finally it was said that no, September would be the last. But I think that instead of having a very narrow mind, we could have just seen the aspects what's happening all around us. So we are still peaking. We have not reached a stage wherein
That's exactly my point, Rohit. I mean, so even we speak about postponement here by 2 months. Is there a certainty that after 2 months we would be good for it, we would be prepared for it? I mean, it's still uncertain. So I think there is definitely an element of risk in conducting exams, and it's actually convenient for us to say now that we've already been through that, but not in this way. But it's imperative that it be held.
yes, yes. Even I agree that exams should be held. A zero academic year would do a more harm than something good to a country on a whole. But again, I believe that life is, I think, more important than any other aspect. And
Certainly, certainly.
since we know the nature of COVID-19, so it is a spreadable disease and it spreads quite quickly. So. I just don't know
Yeah,
that
for
who's going to
families
take the
like yeah,
responsibility.
for Indian families wherein there are joint families too. So, and if
Yes,
anyone, it is more likely to spread that
yeah,
that perspective as well.
yeah. And who is going to take the responsibility if any child, by going to examination, gets COVID-19? And is the government going to pay the bills that are going to come? And the bills are coming in lakhs. It's not
Right,
that,
right.
COVID-19 is something that is coming and going. So,
I
yeah,
think
we must pay.
there should have been this clause under which they are conducting the exam, that if anyone catches hold of this virus during or because of this very reason, so they be given pre-treatment, they and their family. So I think this is something the government could have done, which it
Yeah,
clearly failed to do. So I
yes,
think, yeah, they've fallen short of their uh,
yeah.
regulations there.
Yeah. Also, one of the reasons, Saurabh, that I said that the exams should have been postponed at least a couple of months is the reason that a few days later, if you would have followed the news, that it has been declared that the academic year is going to start from January and is not going to start now. So, postponing the exams up till November should have been viable because our renowned politician, Mr. Subramaniam Swamy, he is now behind, he has taken this task of at least, trying to postpone our NEET examinations for the simple reason that if academic is not going to start this year, we can delay the examinations by another couple of months and hope that, our will stop peaking and
Right, right,
vaccination
right.
also
And
comes.
I think it will give you some buffer time as well. A time for preparedness. Right now, I think the decision was still hasty while it was taken. It was
Yeah.
uh, more pressurizing than just stimulating.
Yes.
So I think
Yes.
preparedness of 2 months perhaps would have helped both the students as well as the regulators to be more prepared and be ready for the D-Day.
Yes.
So I think, yeah, we've discussed, I think it from
Yeah.
many perspectives. So this is the statistics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as we all know that NEET is going to happen on 13th of September. If the image is clear enough, I'll just explain. So there are two separate images. One on the left side is showing different centers. So it's comparing 2020 and 2019. So if we see, this is something quite positive from the government. If we just consider an example of Bihar, so in 2019 there were 84 centers in Bihar for NEET, and in 2020 there are going to be 192 centers, so almost double of it. And if we see this year, almost 65 to 70% centers have been increased on an average, and which is a good initiative by government. So this time's SOP for NEET is going to be that 12 students will only sit in a classroom, because of which they have increased the number of centers, and which is a
Right.
good thing. So I support government on this, wherein they have increased the centers of the NEET examination. And the right one, so the first one was the left, now the right one is the same centers, but in terms of cities. So here I am a little not so happy, because if we again see Bihar, for example, there are just two cities wherein NEET is going to be held. So there are 192 centers in Bihar, but all these 192 centers are going to be in just these two cities. If the board, whoever is deciding, the NTA decides on the centers, if they could spread out the number of centers and the number of cities where NEET would take place, so that would ensure that people are not getting densely populated in a particular area. And that will also ensure transportation, because for many people who stay quite far away, if you just imagine, in a state there are just two cities where you can go, so that means long transportation for many people. And since Bihar and Assam and many of the states are facing with floods and no transportation, it becomes very difficult for students in these scenarios to just
Ironically,
reach
the
their
same thing happened with the JEE aspirants. I mean, we are going to discuss that. So same issue. What you the I mean, the statistics just support the same issue you were talking about. So yeah, I'll just quickly move on
yeah.
to that slide. Okay. So yeah, well, the anxiety naturally prevalent amongst every aspirant. The reaction, however, no, it indicates an entire spectrum of emotions and ambitions. So basically, uh, the JEE exam those were held this week. So it was a week long duration in different shifts. So SOPs were obviously given, the guidelines were given, but the practicality, when it came to practicality, there were several issues that were faced on the day, on the ground level. I mean, for some, it was inconvenient because of the transportation, as you mentioned earlier. Like a reaction from a particular student, I read the article about. He had to travel 100 kilometers to just give the exam because there were no local
Yeah.
transportation. You can imagine 100 kilometers traveling on the examination day. The fatigue it would cause just before the exam, and we all know how important and crucial these examinations are, and how fresh one needs to be. And just
Right.
traveling 100 kilometers prior to the exam, you can imagine how tiring that must be.
Was it that
And
the student that went on a scooter?
right, exactly the student I'm talking about.
Yeah, so I think that later on, some department has given them air tickets to go back to their hometown now. But that's the question, that for how many people are you going to do the same? The department
The,
has just done for one or a couple of people, but there are so
just
many such students.
exactly. I mean, even if it is for one person, fine, it is a good thing. But then again, you are
Yeah,
tiring the student just before the exam, and then he'll give a 3 hour long paper, or perhaps 6 hours in case of some other. So I think it's very questioning, and it
it is.
questions the theoreticalness of it. I mean, you mentioned the SOPs, but are they actually being followed? I mean,
Yeah,
the another issue was I mean, the social distancing was not really reassuring. I mean, while you check your hall ticket number or in which exam room your exam would be, I mean, there would be a but natural gathering. So I think the
Yeah,
entire scenario becomes very. You cannot just avoid this. So
yeah,
it's really. I mean, it exists only in paper. The SOPs,
yeah.
and again wearing a mask too while writing the exam. It, it is not very comforting, and
It is
especially
not.
for those already facing pre-existing conditions like asthma or some other
Yeah,
respiratory issues.
that's a good
For
point.
them, imagine wearing the mask for the entire 3 hours. It is naturally exacerbating, and again
Yeah,
for asthma patients, it would have a compounding effect. So I
yeah, yeah.
think yes.
Yeah.
So
Also, if it might seem petty, but just students who wear spectacles and when they wear masks,
right,
so a kind
it
of
becomes
fog,
foggy. Right,
yeah,
right.
it becomes
Yeah,
foggy. So how many times students are going to wipe their spectacles and give examinations? How many times? It's not that convenient.
it is questionable. Right.
It is. And also one more thing about SOP is that they're just checking the temperature, and if any patient is what we call them us, what was that word I just
Asymptomatic.
is
Asymptomatic.
asymptomatic. If they are found asymptomatic, they are not going to show any change in temperature. So how are you going to find if the patient is actually COVID-19 or not? If he does not have a past record, and even if he does, what documents are they taking, to ensure that those students are COVID free? So yeah, the SOP was on a very high level thing. Nothing in detail was followed
It was
practically.
vague. To be very precise, it was vague. I mean, it was not very reassuring, or rather, I mean, fine. You ask someone to maintain a social distancing. You ask someone to wear a mask. You ask someone to sanitize. But then again, the entire idea is disrupted once you actually uh,
Yeah,
go at the ground level and examine it,
yeah.
because the anxiety and the exam pressure takes the better of anyone, I think.
Yeah, but again, since these examinations happened in different centers, so every center has its own pros and cons. There were many
E-
centers in students' reactions wherein they said that the facilities were very good. Uh,
exactly. Yes,
supporting-
yes.
yeah.
Although there were only a few, but then yes, they were satisfied with the entire setup. That's true.
Yes. So I think those were mainly the centers which are in a city, metropolitan city. The ones in rural areas, they might not be following those level of precautions than the ones in the cities.
Right, right, right. So again, when it comes to the reactionary part, so yeah, long story short, the year has been cruel. I mean, to all of us, and I think it did not fail for the students as well. I mean, I think by far this would have been obviously the year has been historic in itself, but in terms of conducting exams too, I think this year nobody's gonna forget in terms of that as well. Both
Yes,
the examiners, as well as the test takers, and as also the regulators.
yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think we've covered the reactionary part,
yeah,
and now we'll just expand it to a global scenario.
yeah, yeah. So when we talk about how the situation in India, we've already talked, but what about other countries? Like, were exams held there? Were they not? So we'll just have a quick look on that. So there were a few countries who supported that examinations should be just like India did. So Germany, China, Hong Kong were some of them, wherein they mutually decided, the governments, that they need to have examinations, the respective examinations of that country. And I'm just talking about national examinations here. So examinations were conducted in these countries, whereas there were many countries on a much greater number, like England, Norway, Netherlands, Italy, Spain, France, mostly the European countries. So they have either postponed or cancelled their schools as well as the ones examinations that you give for college and higher school. So those examinations have either been cancelled or postponed in these countries. But we know the fact that over there in Europe, so the cases were more as compared to other parts of the world. So over there, they had to.
I think even the education system there is quite different from ours. I mean, they have a more flexible one than ours. So I think
Yes, they do.
you if you postpone the exam there, so it's just as like we call the spring break or the winter break. So
Yeah.
it's like you miss a winter break, you give it in the
Yeah.
summer break. So it's pretty flexible there. Not
Yeah.
like India, wherein the margin for error is
Right.
very narrow.
Yes,
So
yes. And
I think
so India has a new education policy now. We just hope
right,
that it gets implemented soon enough, and we have a structure that is quite resembling the other developed countries. And we have actually made a video on this. So
right,
any
right.
of you guys who wish to see those videos, just check out our channel. You'll get a video on national education policy as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think
So
we'll provide them with the link in the description,
yeah. Okay.
the
We'll
comment box.
definitely do that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
So I've just mentioned one extra point here. So USA, there is an examination known as advanced placement tests. These are basically done once you pass out. So so what has USA done is taken those efforts. It knows that it cannot conduct physical examinations since US is the most worst hit country. They tried to start colleges and that didn't have a good impact. Many students got COVID, because of which what USA did was they took the extra efforts, they changed the entire pattern of the examinations. They've made it more home friendly, and now these examinations are being conducted right uh, where the students are living, and so they are giving those examinations, and they've made those efforts to change the pattern of the entire examination so that it suits home also, and it suits their necessary criteria also.
But there would be a lot of law breakers in this, a law violators. So I
Yes,
think
I
that
think
is
anything that
quite.
happens for the first time, then
Yeah, right, right, right.
yeah,
True.
yeah. But as we all know, extreme times needs extreme
Demand
steps.
extreme measures, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I think it is a good step.
I think
Uh,
being technologically advanced gives you an upper hand too. I think USA has capitalized there,
yeah,
at least from an exam perspective.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, yes. And the government is also quite efficient there. So things
right,
do come to the ground level quite quickly.
right.
Yeah.
So I think
So
we've discussed globally in
yeah,
different countries how they have held or postponed or changed their pattern completely, as in USA.
yeah.
So these are the references we've uh, just consolidated the entire PPT from, and
Yeah.
I think yeah, that's it from our end pertaining to this very uh,
Yeah.
topic or this issue we talked about.
So
So
Saurav, if you
all in
want to
all,
conclude,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't get you.
So Saurav, if you want to conclude our today's session, like what do you think? Exams should have been postponed. If so, how long? If not,
So three things here. One, exams need to be conducted no matter what. Okay. So and two, the timeline should have been a little more refined. And three, the execution part. I think these three things, if managed well, I mean, it would actually uh, be very convenient for both examiners and the students
yeah.
on the ground level. Again,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, Saurabh. Yeah, I think I agree with you this time. And I
Okay.
think that, yeah, the examinations should have been conducted, but should have definitely been postponed by a couple of months. And a national examination like NEET, maybe it should have been done the way JEE was done. in parts, bits and parts, utilizing various days, and it should have been in more cities and more centers than it was decided this year. So things could have been much better. We would have seen less, and we just hope that examinations happen, not happen. We just hope that uh, people do not get coronavirus, and everything works out
Right,
in
right,
the.
right. I think we all hope we don't catch the flu.
Yeah, it is.
It's
It is.
not just the flu. I mean, yeah, SARS-CoV-2.
Yes. So do say stay safe, everyone who's watching this, and
Yes,
let us know any comments you would like to share about this video or any other video or anything in general. We'll be more than happy to respond to you as soon as possible.
right. So I think that's it from our side, guys. And till next time, stay home, stay safe, and
Yes.
yeah,
Okay. Bye, Saurabh. Signing off. Bye
signing
bye.
off. Bye.